Well, hello again and welcome to part 5 of a 6-part series on using the flipped classroom and problem-based and project-based learning in the classroom. I'm Bill Huitt and I will be moderating this part of the workshop. Please remember that you can use Twitter or the back channel created for this workshop. This will allow you to pose questions and discuss topics with anyone watching these videos. We will monitor the back channel and join in these discussions. This presentation will focus on the learning theories that support problem-based and project-based learning. These include social and cognitive constructivism, humanism, social cognition, and connectivism. Again, this will be a very brief overview of material you probably already know and just need a reminder about some of the basic principles. For a more thorough presentation of these theories, I will provide a link to my website at the end of this presentation. As stated in previous parts of the workshop videos, there is a difference between problem-based and project-based learning. Problem-based learning is focused more at the application level of Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive domain as discussed in part 3 of this series. The primary purpose is to elaborate on knowledge and understandings that were developed in prior instruction. This generally incorporates the use of discrete problems and the use of case studies. On the other hand, project-based learning is focused on the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy: analyze, analysis, create, synthesis, evaluate, or evaluation. One might relate this to having students participate in the maker movement, where actual products are created and evaluated for potential use. This should always involve the creation of something new or different and an evaluation process whereby the project is evaluated based on its meeting a need of some sort. That is, some projects may be creative in that they are new and original, but they are not innovative in that they do not meet an authentic need. Of course, these terms can be quite subjective, and it's the process of creation and evaluation that should be the focus of project-based learning. The first supporting theory for PBL is social constructivism, based on the work of Lev Vygotsky and John Dewey. One of the basic principles of this theory, as applied to teaching and learning, is that the focus of learning experiences should be authentic. That is, they should prepare learners for successful adulthood and citizenship. Exactly what those tasks are is a primary issue that social constructivists believe needs to be discussed among parents and educators. The second principle is that language is very important for thinking in personal interactions. In fact, many social constructivists would go so far as to say that language and social interaction precedes thinking and creating mental representations. A third principle is what is called the zone of proximal development. Essentially, this principle advocates paying attention to those knowledge and skills that individual learners can acquire through guided supervision. At the one end, this zone is bounded by what learners already know and can do. At the other end, it relates to knowledge and skills that are beyond the learner's potential to develop at the present time, even with excellent guided learning experiences. Finally, a fourth principle is scaffolding, which refers to the process of creating sufficient assistance so that the learner can demonstrate mastery and then slowly withdrawing that assistance as the learner becomes more capable with the task. Parents do this almost instinctively when they're helping their young children to learn new tasks such as dressing themselves. But it requires some practice in order to do this effectively in a classroom comprised of learners with individual differences in background and abilities. The second supporting theory of PBL is cognitive constructivism, based on the theories of Jean Piaget and Jerome Bruner. One of the most important learning principles is the role of disequilibrium as the start of the process of mental adaptation. Basically, cognitive constructivists propose that learners create mental organizations that they use to interact with the world and meet the demands of the environment. When those organizations, called schemes or schemata, do not work, the individual automatically puts effort into recreating equilibrium or balance. Intentionally creating disequilibrium is a powerful way to motivate students as part of a learning experience. A second principle, which is attributed to Piaget, is the importance of stages of cognitive development. Research by educators who use this theory suggests that the age and cognitive maturity of the individual must be considered when designing learning experiences. A third theory that supports PBL is humanism, which advocates that human beings are not simply animals with higher functioning mental processing, but rather a species with unique attributes that must be considered when creating learning experiences. One of the most important principles of learning for humanists is that emotions are as important as thoughts. They have contributed significantly to the realization that human beings operate as much, if not more, on their emotions than on their knowledge and cognitive processing. And one advocacy of the humanists is that the arts should have a central place in the curriculum. There is an accumulating body of research to support this claim. One place where it is prominent in today's educational vocabulary is a change from an advocacy for STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math, to an advocacy for STEAM, which includes the arts and the social sciences as part of a curricular focus. Finally, a basic principle of the humanists is that learning experiences should be created that promote self-direction, personal responsibility, curiosity, creativity, and independence. These are some of the most important skills that have been discussed as relevant for success in the 21st century and are included in many of the lists of various authors and organizations who address that topic. A fourth theory that supports PBL is Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory. The basic principle is one of reciprocal determination. That is, theorists who propose that environmental factors, personal factors, and behavior are intertwined such that a change in one will potentially influence change in the other two. This is an important principle because all of the previous theories propose a one-way relationship. For example, behaviorists claim that reinforcement impacts behavior, but not vice versa. The same can be said for the relationship between cognition and behavior, modeling and behavior, affect and behavior, and so on. Considering these as having a back and forth relationship opens up the possibility for more diverse learning experiences. One of the basic findings of social cognition theory is the importance of self-efficacy, which is defined as a learner's belief that he or she has the required level of mastery to successfully complete a specific learning task. Over the past several decades, a considerable body of literature has been developed to support this principle. In fact, in a meta-analysis of factors impacting student achievement for high school students, their beliefs about their past performance were more than twice as predictive of future grades when compared to their actual prior performance. A second set of findings derived from social cognitive theory includes the importance of self-regulation. Most discussions of important skills needed for learners in the 21st century include some discussion of this concept. This is because it is becoming increasingly important for students to actually take personal responsibility for their own learning. All of the previous learning theories we have discussed have something to say about how self-regulation is developed. The most important concept from the perspective of flipping the classroom and engaging learners in PBL is to take learners where they are and help them to become a little more self-regulated as they complete homework and engage in classroom learning experiences. It is critical to have learners reflect on their progress in becoming self-regulated. That will strengthen their understandings of the skills they are developing. The last learning theory to be discussed is one you might not have heard about, connectivism, developed by Stephen Downes and George Siemens. The focus of this theory is on how learning occurs as a result of people being embedded within digital networks. Most importantly, the developers propose that in the digital age, learning is primarily a function of how learners are connected to digital networks, both as consumers and producers. This theory has much in common with constructivism, where the creation of personal meaning is of primary importance. An important principle is that learners need to learn to access multiple databases and compare different sources of knowledge for their reliability and validity. I'm sure that everyone has had the experience of learners choosing popular websites such as Wikipedia or About for basic information without questioning its validity. Evaluating resources for their potential use is an important skill that must be taught. A second and perhaps even more important principle of connectivism is that learners must share products and projects with a valued audience. That is, learners must see themselves as producers of new information as well as consumers. Some researchers have put it this way: learning is primarily a result of action followed by appropriate feedback. However, when action is followed by shared feedback, it results in exponential learning. And that rate of learning is required for successful adulthood in the 21st century, where an exponential growth in knowledge has become the norm. One way to organize these concepts and theories for thinking about the flipped classroom in PBL is to use Bloom's taxonomy as a framework. In the flipped classroom, the learning experiences that are intended to lead to knowledge and comprehension are done at home. Remember that basic principles derived from behaviorism and operant conditioning, the cognitive information processing theory, and social learning can be quite useful in designing these experiences. The classroom is used more for the higher levels of the taxonomy, beginning with learners solving problems, thereby applying their initial knowledge and understandings. While educators can continue to use operant conditioning, information processing, and social learning theories, the focus is more on principles derived from social and cognitive constructivism, humanism, social cognition, and connectivism. Next, the classroom is used to analyze prior knowledge and applications as learners first engage in relatively small project-based learning activities under the teacher's supervision. These may take several days to complete. Finally, learners then work on self-designed projects that may take a quarter, semester, or even an entire school year to complete. Teachers must prepare learners for success by carefully arranging learning experiences that will provide them with the requisite knowledge, attitudes, and skills. When learners share their project with others and celebrate their accomplishments, teachers should help learners reflect on the new knowledge, attitudes, and skills they have acquired. This sharing and reflection is a vital part of project-based learning. It is really not complete until these final steps are done. This is the end of Part 5. Please continue to Part 6 of the workshop. If you want a more thorough presentation for these learning theories, go to this website and search for the theory of interest.